Episode 11. Closure doesn't always come in words. There's a belief many of us grow up with that every chapter in life should have a clean ending, a conversation, an apology, a moment of understanding, and a final message that ties everything together neatly. But life rarely gives us neat endings. Some relationships end suddenly. Some friendships fade quietly. Some connections fracture without explanation. Some careers close without a proper send-off. Some misunderstandings remain unresolved. Some pain is left unspoken. And yet, we still have to carry on. Today's episode is about that reality, about the moments where closure never arrives, and about how emotional leaders move forward even when the story feels unfinished. Because becoming unbreakable doesn't mean every part of your past is neatly wrapped. It means learning how to live, even when some threads are still loose. The expectation of neat endings. From childhood, we're told, say sorry, make up, talk it through, fix it before the day is over. And that's beautiful, in theory. But adult life is different. People leave without explanations. Conversations end abruptly. Circumstances change. Workplaces restructure without acknowledging your contribution. Friendships shift after stressful seasons. Health crises change dynamics. Misunderstandings remain unresolved because the moment passes too quickly or too painfully. And sometimes the person you need closure from isn't emotionally able to give it. Not because they don't care, but because they don't have the tools. That's where emotional leadership becomes essential. The closure I never got at work. When I left the NHS in early 2025, there wasn't a grand farewell, no deep conversation, no real acknowledgement of what I'd given, no recognition of the years I'd spent serving patients, practices, colleagues and systems. The environment had already undervalued me long before my final day. And for a while it bothered me. The lack of closure, the feeling of being unseen, the quiet goodbye. But then I realised something important. Closure doesn't come from organisations. Closure comes from honesty with yourself. Leaving wasn't failure, it was liberation. My closure wasn't a conversation, it was a decision. A decision to walk away from a place that no longer reflected my worth. That was enough. the personal closures we don't talk about. Then there are the endings that hurt on a deeper level. Not because of anger, but because of connection. Relationships that shift unexpectedly. Friendships that become strained. People who once felt close becoming distant without explanation. Conversations that fall apart, even though the bond mattered. Emotional truths that are never spoken out aloud. And sometimes, even when you were close, even when you cared, even when you supported each other, life creates a separation that words can't fix. If you've ever had to walk away from someone you still cared about, or loved deeply, or shared something meaningful with, you'll understand this. Closure is not always a conversation. Closure is acceptance. Acceptance of what happened. Acceptance of what didn't happen. Acceptance of what cannot be revisited. Acceptance of what cannot be rebuilt. Acceptance of what was beautiful, even if it ended painfully. Acceptance of a lesson, even if you never get the explanation. That's emotional maturity. That's emotional leadership. The truth about unfinished stories. Here's the truth. Not every story in your life will have a final chapter. Some will remain half open. Some will stay unresolved. Some will sit quietly in the background of your heart. Some will teach you something you didn't realise at the time. And that's okay. Closure isn't about the other person. It isn't about what they say or don't say, or the apology you never received, or the acknowledgement you deserved, or the conversation that never happened. Closure is an internal process. I can hold this memory without holding the pain. I can appreciate what was good without needing what was missing. I can move forward without rewriting the past. That's real closure. What's my journey taught me about closure? Through illness, through recovery, through work collapse, through emotional rupture, through friendships that shifted, through people who came and went, I learned 3 truths. 1. Some endings come without explanations. And that's not a failure, it's life. 2. You can release someone without erasing what was meaningful. Love doesn't disappear because the chapter ends. Compassion doesn't vanish because the conversation didn't happen. Impact doesn't evaporate because the relationship changed. And 3. Closure is less about the past and more about your next step. It's about choosing peace over rumination, acceptance over resentment, growth over stagnation. A practical tool, the 3-step self-closure process. If you're carrying an unresolved ending, try this. Step 1. Acknowledge what you wanted. A conversation. An apology. Understanding. Reconnection. Validation. Name it honestly. Step 2. Recognise what's possible now. Not what should happen. What is. Maybe the moment has passed. Maybe they can't give you what you hoped. Maybe the story served its purpose. Step 3. Choose your ending. Yes, choose it. Something like, I release this with gratitude. Or, I accept what I can't change. Or, I honour what this gave me, even if it didn't last. Or, my peace matters more than this chapter. That's closure. Quiet. Honest. Yours. A reflective moment for you. Close your eyes for a moment. Think of a story in your life that feels unfinished. A relationship. A friendship. A misunderstanding. A connection. A workplace chapter. Ask yourself gently, what would closure look like if it didn't depend on someone else? Let the answer rise. That's the beginning of peace. Closure doesn't always come in words. Sometimes it comes in silence. Sometimes it comes in acceptance. Sometimes it comes in a moment of clarity that whispers, this chapter is complete. Not because someone closed it for me, but because I chose to close it myself. You don't need everything and every ending to be tidy to move into the next season of your life. You just need truth, presence, and the courage to turn the page. If this episode resonated with you, especially if you're carrying something unfinished, something unresolved, something that never quite got the ending you hoped for, I want you to know this. You don't need a perfect final conversation to move forward. You don't need every explanation. You don't need every apology. You don't need every loose thread tied up neatly. Sometimes strength is quiet acceptance Sometimes growth is choosing peace over answers. And sometimes becoming unbreakable means learning to close the chapter yourself. If this season has been part of your own reflection on resilience, leadership, identity, reinvention, and the moments that shape us, I'd really encourage you to follow the podcast and stay with me for the final episode of Season 1. In our next episode, we'll bring this chapter together. Not with drama, not with noise, but with clarity. Because the journey from survival to strength deserves a proper landing. I'll see you in the final episode of Season 1.